All
Can you
right.
believe we're right around the corner from Christmas? Time is flying.
Right around the corner for New Year's.
I know. It's
It's even
crazy.
bigger one. Yeah. So I think we got what, one more week? This next week is our last week on a call. We'll have our inner circle
We're
stuff.
right around the corner from Christmas.
Yeah.
Time is flying.
Oh, well, let me right around the corner for New Year's. Let me mute
I
this.
know.
Boom. All right. Um, cool. So welcome everybody. Seth, you good to share?
Yeah. Let's see
All right.
here.
We got some good content for you guys today. If it's your first time, welcome. I see some new faces. So, um, pretty important one. How to evaluate and secure the best investment properties in any market. Um, everybody, sometimes people jump markets, but you should be able to use these same tactics in any given market. Somewhat of it is somewhat basic, but we'll dive a little bit deeper. A lot of people always message me. I know some of you guys in this group too message me about, Ray, how can I, better evaluate? And so we just want to share some of our steps that we are doing and employing at this time period.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's we talk about probably this is kind of like an overview of what we talk about a lot, right? With finding deals, right? And analyzing deals and securing the funding for deals and strategies and exits and stuff like that. This is
Mhm.
But it's important to understand the basics of it too, and not forget that and get in the weeds, right? When you start tapping into these more exotic exit strategies.
Yeah. All right. Without further ado,
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who is new or is watching later on, my name is Seth Timmerman. I've been investing in real estate since about 2019 or so. Um, I actively invest in small to medium multifamily and do a lot of wholesaling in the Virginia market as well. Um, but I run Mountaineer RIA here locally in Morgantown, West Virginia, and that's where I met Mr. Ray Glymph, and him and I put this on, and we're 60 some odd episodes into it now, coming to you every week and dropping as much knowledge as we can, and I love it.
a lot of hours, Seth. Everybody,
Yes.
welcome. Ray Glimp, over 100 doors, over 10 million in real estate. A ton more of deals that we've done. Looking to continue to do. We're buying even in today's market. We're selling even in today's market. We come here each and every Tuesday to help educate, spread some knowledge that we have from our experiences. Hopefully, you could pick up something, a tip or two to help you on your next deal, especially on this one. So excited to share it with you folks.
Real quick, the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any organization. The content provided is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as professional, legal, medical, or financial advice. Listeners are encouraged to conduct their own research and consult with appropriate professionals before making any decisions based on the information provided in this podcast. Any reliance you place on such information is strictly at your own risk.
Awesome. So goals, we always like to hear from you folks, see what goals you've had, what goals you've accomplished, put you closer to your smart week or your smart goals, sorry. And the biggest thing when we talk goals is we only have, as we mentioned, I know Seth and I, we only got one more week of content before the end of the year wrap up, as we have Christmas and then New Year's. So we definitely want to talk about the goals and hear from you folks on the goals that you have from next year, right? Or the goals that you've accomplished. I know, I'm gonna be honest, like being here and seeing you folks accomplish so much week over week, like I look back at everybody's struggles last year, right? And seeing you folks consistently come here, put in the time, put in the work, and see the growth is I mean, it's fruitful to you to see the growth. It's fruitful to me, and I take great and tremendous joy from it. So I want to share that with you guys. So this was one of our goals to set this up. We've been doing it for a year consistently. That was a goal of mine. Um, and Seth, I appreciate you, taking this journey with me as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, anyone else have any goals, anything they want to share before we move forward? Go ahead and mute yourself if you do.
Okay.
Who's that?
Clarissa.
Oh,
Go
that's
ahead.
me. So, the work is starting on my fire escape this week. I had a pre-construction meeting today with the team, and tomorrow we're meeting with code enforcement, but all the materials are in, and so we are that much closer to getting those condemned signs off the front of our building.
Love that. Congratulations. Definitely congratulations. Huge one. Next time I'm in Fairmont, Seth, oh my God, we should have went out to their property. We were just there. Didn't
Yeah,
even think.
right.
Oh my God, we dropped the ball. Clarissa, next time we're out there, we'll take a stop by. Anyone else they want to share anything, goals you guys accomplished? Ashley, we happy you here with us as well. Goals for the week or upcoming goals for the new year. Awesome. All right, let's move on then. All right, so our breaking news. Five housing market predictions for 2025, according to several economists. This was pretty cool. The average house was up almost about, what would you say, 1%, almost 2% year over year. 437,000 to 426,000. It's about 3% jump.
Just about.
3%, which is average for what we would expect for real estate market. 3% year over year is pretty much the standard that we see kind of places and prices with inflation. So here are
Well,
some.
that's in a month,
Oh,
a month prior.
okay. That's it's different to look at. I want to see the year over year. I wonder where we end up year over year. Let's share that next week. 3% over a month is great. That's great. Home price growth will return to pre-pandemic levels is one prediction. That's something that we just talked about. I think we will see price growth kind of stabilize as it's been, and slow down a big portion of 2025, especially if interest rates stay the same. Higher interest rates, slower to buy. Flattening rents with more room to negotiate. So tenants out there, people that might be listening, that might be tenants, might be time to negotiate. I know a lot of landlords offer, they have a lease up period, especially with new inventory. So they might be willing to negotiate with, changeovers or, first free month rent, or because typically you'll see they call it like a buyback where they'll do free month rent for the first month. And typically how they do it is they might rent the place high at, let's say, 1,100, $1,500 a month, and then that free month pretty much decreases your rent for the whole year or for the whole lease period. So that's how you look at that. Um, a bumpy and volatile year for mortgage rates. I agree with that 100%. We have a new president coming in, so you have no idea whether interest rates are going up or down. We are expecting a Fed cut in December. Seth, would you agree? I think we got a quarter point in December, but we're not going to see those low rates again. I think those are things of the past. 6 and 7% is going to be the new standard. Don't look for a 3% rate. If you get one, kudos to you, but um, unless you're doing like subject to, I don't think you're going to get any 3% rates. This was one that we talked about a couple months ago, and climate risk will bake into home prices. I think this is going to be a big one. We see Florida's fires in California, flooding in Florida, fires in Texas, freezing in Texas. Luckily, the winter has been pretty mild. I think all of these will be huge coming up. Um, and then more home sales than in 2024. That's a good one. I'm curious to see about that, whether we will see more home sales. I know there's been a lot of stagnation for people on the sideline this year. So whether we will see more or less homes sales. Triple H put on a huge buy down rate. Maybe builders offering incentive rates. Yeah, we will see that, especially from new builds and new construction. I know a lot of buyers, but be very wary. And I want to share this with y'all. This is something people don't talk about, but I do see it quite often. So when you go buy a brand new home, you may be able to get a buy down rate. They may tell you 3%. Usually that's for just a typical period of time. So that 3 or 5% might be 3 or 5 years. It might be your first year, right? So if rates stay stagnant, you might go from a 5 or 4% rate to a 7% rate.
Yeah.
Also be aware that there are taxes that are incurred as well. So when you get your first tax year, the property is probably assessed as what just the land cost is, right? But once the county catches up and they figure out this whole land is developed, your tax base grows tremendously. And I've seen people's mortgages go from 2,500 to 3,000 to all of a sudden $6,000 a month just because their property got assessed correctly. And so if you do go to buy new, I've seen people just lose, like give up their house. Straight foreclosure, just give it up. I can't afford it. Wasn't expecting these taxes. Right. So
That
be very,
happens.
go ahead.
That happens for buyers of renovations as well, right?
Mm,
Um, an appraisal flags that from the county, right? Um, and so same thing when you're buying a house and it's been fixed up. So if you're buying a house and you're doing a burr and you go through your refinance process to maximize out what you got, you're putting that value out there. The county's going to use that value and they're going to tax you on that.
hmm
So I've seen it happen with investors with their burrs as well, where they've been paying $1,500 a year in taxes, and then it almost double after their burr is done because that renovation happened and forced that value. By forcing that value, you're creating more taxable dollars for the government. They're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah. So be very cautious. Yes, you could buy down your rate. Yes, new buy or new developers or developers in general may give you a discount, but that discount is temporary. And let's just say, play devil's advocate, let's just say interest rates go up, right? Nobody's quite prepared for that conversation where if we have tariffs, which become very inflationary, and interest rates go up, and you get that buy down, and all of a sudden rates go from right now, I think we're looking at 7. You might be able to get low sixes or high sixes, maybe low sevens, and they go up to 9 or 10.
I
What
think
do
the
you do?
nation, I think the national average on a 30-year right now is 6.89.
6.8. So in the Wall Street Journal right now is 7.75. So when we look as investors, like or like especially commercial, we use Wall Street Journal, especially with conventional financing. It's always going to be Wall Street Journal plus 1% or 2%, whatever the bank spread is on that. So but if it goes up from 7.75, we're going to see that little quarter point. So it might go down to 7.5. I'm buying property next as soon as the rate. When is the next rate cut? I feel like it's like next week or something. Is it right before Christmas?
It should be 15th.
Yeah,
Abram,
right. Yeah, next
Abram
week.
would know. Abram, when are they supposed to meet? If you can
Yeah,
talk.
I think it's next Tuesday. Um, but when we get to that point, I'm buying stuff and waiting for that little decrease. But who's to say where rates go from there? You know. I think the last rate, or maybe two ago, we saw they cut rates and they went back up because the market already priced it in.
Yeah.
So just be cautious of that.
Can I chime in, Ray?
Sure, let's go.
Okay, so because the situation you're describing is me.
Oh,
So I this is a new construction home that I'm in,
hmm
and what I found out, and I don't know if this is the case in every county, but so the tax rate that my mortgage is calculated at now, it's vacant land, and that here in Mon County, vacant land is taxed the same as investment properties, and it's actually a little bit higher than what my tax rate will be moving forward. And the reason I know that is because I looked up my neighbors' tax rates, my neighbors who have larger homes and who paid more for their properties. So that's a little tip if you're not sure what your taxes are going to be. Pull the tax records for surrounding properties.
yeah. And again, once the development is done, you usually see higher tax rates as well. So if you're just moving into a new development, be very, very cautious.
You can also appeal that too if you are,
Again, I do know people who've done it successfully, but not many of them.
there's companies out there that you can pay that will go on your
Yeah.
behalf to appeal it for you.
To whoever tries to appeal it to, best of luck and let me know your story because I want to hear about it. I want to know
I've
what the
I've
process.
done it a couple times when I lived in New Jersey.
Hmm
It's a pain because
Yeah.
you have to bring all the comps and they have to be within like a mile and a half radius of your house. It has to be within 60 days or no, 45 days of the lot, when they pulled their figures. That's where you got to be really friendly with a realtor and they
Yeah.
do that and scour that public record for you to make sure. But and even if you win your case, I've done this in the past. They only they only lower it by a couple $100. So it makes you go through the whole bunch of hoops and hurdles, but
But a
it's the
couple
principle
hundred
of it
dollars
all.
is a lot of money when you start
Yeah,
talking about year over year
exactly.
payments, and that's money just going out the window. You get none of that back. So it definitely is worth it to fight any fight, especially I don't know how much it'll cost for that company, but it definitely may be worth it to fight, and especially in the long term. They'll get their money back some way though. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but this was some stuff that we saw. This article was current as of today. So I love bringing news to you folks as well, um, on the most current items.
Yeah, I'm super interested on the obviously the bumpy and volatile year that is not what, if you look back in May and June and things like that, what we were seeing then. We were seeing that progress was going to happen towards the end of the year, and that 2025 you're going to see a steady decline.
Do
Um,
do
so
you feel like there's a lot of propaganda or a lot of loom and gloom being published now, just as a scare tactic because of the incoming presidential term?
So
Uh,
Seth, I think we talked about this maybe last week, Wednesday. Um, I don't think so. I think, and I'm kind of facing it. One, the market right now is, it's not as hot as it was. The savings rate, if you can look at it, I don't know if we could pull it up. I don't think we'll be able to pull it up in time. But the savings rate of the average U.S. citizen is well below pre-pandemic levels. Our debt is the highest it's ever been. We do have a deficit government spending. I think we're kind of like in that bubble of something's got to give almost. What
yeah,
will it be? I'm not sure, but the consumer, that's why we have this each week. The consumer, for the most part, and we were looking in our market because there's a lot of property kind of sitting. The consumer, for the most part, I think is somewhat tapped out. You have the cost of groceries, which they say inflation is under control. Now, you folks tell me if y'all feel it at the grocery store. I just went and I spent $70 or $80. Literally just went to the grocery store and I had maybe two bags, you
yeah,
know. And
yeah,
so I don't think it's all propaganda. I think there is some validity to it. And here's the thing. You are supposed to rent for a little bit of time and then be able to buy a house. That is how the system is designed. And right now, I don't think that's doable for the average American. Actually, I think there was a statistic that 70% of Americans, 30 and under, said it was unlikely that they would be able to afford a house. Okay. Which is kind of that is the American dream to be able to afford a house and be a homeowner. So with that, it kind of makes it a little bit difficult. Let me see. We got a file in the meeting. I don't know if you can see it. Okay. Yep. The U.S. national debt. If you guys want to look at it,
yeah. 36 trillion.
and it's growing rapidly.
Yeah, because they're just printing money like they don't have
Yes.
any value
So,
assets
and this
to.
is why we tell you folks to invest in hard assets because real estate rises with inflation. Gold, uh, Bitcoin to some extent rises with inflation. So make sure that you are invested in hard assets. And yeah, this is a great, thanks for sharing, Abraham. This is a great,
yeah, it's good.
yeah. So this is where we are. Debt per citizen is 107,000. Um, this is currently where we are right now. So is it propaganda? I don't think so. I think, and I strongly believe, and is numbers to back it. The middle class is being destroyed. It has been destroyed over the last decade, 2 decades, and now you're starting to see the haves and have-nots, and it gets
They
clearer and clearer.
Yeah, they talked about an artificial bubble that's being held back right now. It's actually gonna be worse than the 2008 real estate crash that's waiting to happen because you have all the I guess all the elements that are vital or being just not disclosed to the general public in a manner where it's
So I,
how
I
it was
will
before.
I will say that people versus the 2008 crash, people have more liquidity in their homes and more equity in their homes than 2008, right? A lot of people did lock in great interest rates. A lot of people aren't underwater. A lot of people could sell their home. What would drive the market down would be the lack of buyers in general if people did need to sell their homes. what would have set the market would be people losing their jobs, just like any what do you call it? Any I forget the term, any crash or any of that would be people losing their jobs in abundance. We haven't quite seen that. We have a strong U.S. economy. Well, that's what we're getting quoted. That's what we're being told. The economy is super strong. We do have the emergence of AI. If you folks follow, I actually want to share this story as breaking news. I'm kind of a nerd, but they were able to solve a problem that would have took, I think, I don't know if you guys seen it, about 60 septillion years or something like that. It would have took the average person or the average computer to do it, and they were able to solve it using quantum computing in less than Abraham. If you on, you might share that article too. But they were able to solve it in a fraction of time, and this problem would have took longer than the Earth's ever been around. So as we see advancements in AI, and I want you to think the Tesla bot. I don't know if you folks have seen that, where Tesla has a robot that walks around. What issues will that solve? Our number one problem in the US is, I believe, labor, right? We don't have a strong labor force versus India, a China. Um, I think those are the biggest two competitors, India and China. We don't have the strong, cheap labor force where advancements in robotics and technology and AI can solve a lot of that. So I'm curious to see what the next, not only year, but the next 5 years to the next decade will hold.
It's going to be interesting for sure. I
Yeah.
think that I think that the tariffs are, being inflationary and stuff like that. How much of that is implemented is definitely going to affect, um, the market on the real estate side as well. Um, there's still a lot, right? So I don't know if it's a narrative though. Kind of what you're saying, Triple H. I think that it's it's people are still they're not quite sure, right? Um, I know that across the board, I saw a stat last week across the days on market have increased by like 15 or 20 days. I think the average now across the United States is like 62 days.
Yeah.
Um, and then so pre-pandemic, during the or just after the pandemic, when it was all hot right after COVID, I think the national average was something like 7 days. There was just no inventory and everybody's buying it because it was at a 3% interest rate or whatever it was. It was ridiculous then. So for it to be up to 3 months or 2.5 months now, um, across the nation is interesting.
I want to remind everybody of something too, even new listeners. Real estate is local, right? Where we hear these big global things and we hear these things across the US, we hear for a whole state, but real estate is very local to you. So the crash, we might not see it here. You might not see it where you're investing, but I know it's one happening in Florida, right? Where those condo homeowners, they got months on market and it's looking like they might not be able to exit.
Yeah.
We know how many people moved to Florida during the pandemic, during COVID. Um, so when you start looking at, okay, how many houses are available in Florida? How many condos? If you folks aren't familiar, they had a condo housing crash. Google just unveiled a quantum chip that solves in 5 minutes what supercomputers needed 10 septillion years for, right? That's huge. And I want you to think, and we've talked about this before, especially in our inner circle, the advancements of technology, will lead us, right? As a race, as a human race, will like what changes? Do people work less? I read so much, guys. I read something where they're introducing a four-day work week in one country. Like it's gonna be the norm, right? And big part of that is the technology.
I think it was Spain or Italy.
It was
Maybe I think it was Italy. I feel like is relaxed anyway. I don't know. I feel like they already got a four-day work week. Um,
Yeah.
um,
it was Japan also.
it was Japan. I think that's what it was. It was Japan.
They're
Yes.
having a lot of problems, like people just aren't having children.
Yes, that
So,
was what the article was about. Thanks, Sean. It was Japan because they need people to have children again. And so that is the biggest issue facing humans actually as of today is the
Yeah.
lack of children.
South Korea is having the same issue. They're actually paying people to come in and and marry
Yes.
their residents.
Yeah. Holly said our company is trying to switch to a 4-day. a week. And when you talk to people, I love that. I don't care. I mean, I know we got content, but if y'all want to go into this, we can talk. I love these conversations. I just want y'all to notice. I enjoy this thoroughly. Um, when we talk to, and I talk to a lot of people, when we talk to the average person, I always get the gist of, I'm not having kids because financially I don't have it in me, right? There is a huge cost to having children. You have daycare costs. Daycare costs are more than, I think they said daycare costs are more compared than college. Um,
Yeah.
so
You have parents that are choosing to leave the industry, leaving the workforce to handle daycare because the cost of daycare offsets what they would be making.
yeah, yeah. And so when we look at that, it's like, okay, I'll tell you guys, I think last year I paid $30,000 for daycare, right? That is a car. Now my kids are worth more than a car, but that is a car. So when you start thinking about that, like for the average American, if you're living paycheck to paycheck already, it becomes a struggle. So you either need government subsidies or you need to be able to pay for it, right? And your job has to be able to pay for it. So a lot of parents are capping off at one or two. I feel like parents, honestly, if parents have more than two kids, you're kind of well off. You have to be, or you have a large amount of assistance, right? You're getting assistance from government, you're getting assistance from family. You know, mom and dad live close to you, so you're able to get the help. But for the most part, it's one or two kids. And I believe two kids is like the minimum of what we need in the United States, where it becomes I think the average is I think you need three kids for the replacement rate of the United States right now. So people are having less kids, and I believe that that problem becomes to affordability. Ashley put, I feel like the industry you're in will always be 7 days cleaning. Yes, so when we think about, and this all plays a role, I want you guys to think this all plays a role in housing as well. Um, because if you don't have the people to work, housing doesn't work without people, right? You need people there. So strong industries will be around. I think electricians will be around. HVAC companies will be around. Roofing companies will be around. At least I would think for the next decade, right? Safely for the next decade, you may have those trades. Um, but I
Or
want you, go ahead.
more than that for sure. I mean, I think that comes down to a trade into a service industry, right? Like as consumers, we need housing, we need electricity, we need Wi-Fi. Heaven forbid we don't have internet, right? But water, heating, right? Those are in food sources. Like those are important things for us to survive as a society. Those will always be there. Um,
I want you to think about something, and I wish I had it handy because
it's
I didn't
not
know we were getting into this, but
it's not sexy like the other stuff, right? Like the
no.
tech jobs and stuff like that.
But some of those will be going away very soon. I know they have robots to start doing roofing. They got drywall robots. And how long until it really gets out there? Robots to paint, right? How long until, and it may not be, you may own a company or a roofing company, and instead of sending out 16 guys to do a roof, maybe you just send out this one guy and a robot to do it.
Yeah, like a foreman, and then they control all the
Correct.
the robots. Yeah.
And so eventually all these industries do get more efficient. Now cleaning, I don't know if you could get, I mean, I got a Roomba, it still don't do that well, you know.
That's
But
what that's
technology,
what the Tesla bot's supposed to do, man. It's supposed to
yeah.
wash your dishes
I
and do
mean,
your laundry.
eventually do we get to a world where that stuff is accessible? Because eventually, just like technology, it becomes accessibility, then it becomes affordability. And does this thing become, instead of $30,000 a one-time payment plus monthly, does it just like, hey, we want this in every house and it's $99 a month?
Everything's becoming a subscription nowadays. Everything,
Yeah.
even like features in your car is a
Yeah.
subscription based. So I think we talked about this in the past a couple weeks ago, but it's almost going to be like the Jetsons model. You know what I mean? Where you have the robot made, you have all these other things that are going on, and it's integrated in your life, and then you're just paying for a multi-layer subscription to everything, every facet of your life.
So here's the key to this when everybody listening to, you got to be investors, right? No matter what you're using, you either going to be a subscriber and use it, or you're going to be an investor and make money off it as well. I want you guys to think, how can I invest in this and continue to make money on it, right? The AI boom is here. There's no going back from it. Think about this if I told somebody 10 years ago, we could talk, all of us from everywhere in the United States, be able to talk on a platform consistently without having dial-up or having how old is dial-up? That just aged me, I think.
It was like
Well,
in the early
yeah,
mid
I
nineties,
bet you there's somebody. I bet you there's
AOL,
somebody.
Take it
dial up,
easy on me in the chat. All
56K,
right.
the 56K with the AOL.
But if you told people that, 15, 20 years ago, you'd be like, man, you're crazy. There's no way you'll be able to do that. FaceTime wasn't a thing. You know, we used to take forever to download a video, to watch Netflix or, want to watch movies. You think about it, DVDs just went out of service. Redbox, the company, they just went out of business.
Yeah.
We're not far removed from that. So how far until the next big boom comes up that is here? Old timer Ray, man, take it easy on me. I, So as investors, how do we Blockbuster? Yes, I was in grade 4 with dial-up. Oh man, jeez.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like in junior high school, maybe high school, early high school.
Your parents had to be well off, and you had two lines, one dedicated to the internet and one for
Yeah.
your house line.
We weren't that wealthy. We had to switch the sign. Like it was a time, like, yeah, we had to switch over
Yeah,
here.
right.
Um, but that is what will lead to eventually, I believe, is it will lead to, certain industries will be wiped. Certain industries will get better. You got to think there are tasks right now people don't like doing. Clarissa, it look like you cooking or cleaning. I don't know which. If you're cooking, I think
She,
cooking.
she's
Go
waiting
ahead.
on that Tesla robot.
Cleaning,
You doing what? Cleaning.
cleaning,
Those tasks.
tippy tops.
Those tasks will be here for a while, but things will get easier and easier. Even think about the invention of the dishwasher. Like,
Think about I mean, when I was first starting, like it was strange for people to put in outlets that had USBs,
mm,
right? On the renovation side, right? Like back when I was doing renovations before I got really into investing in real estate and was running a home improvement company, like it was, I mean, those things were $50 for a combo receptacle and stuff like that. And that now they're more expensive, but they're not as ridiculous as well, right? Like, I mean, the smart house, that was something that was an idea. And I
yeah.
think that it's lost some steam, but I think it's going to pick up.
Yeah, I think so. What happened is the smart house became very expensive to do.
Mhm.
That was the biggest thing, and the costs were so high. But oh, look, she got the outlets with the USBs. There you go.
Just showing
But
off.
But now you've got the smart house in your hand,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, you control everything from your phone, and so before it became, and this is a great leeway into the next subject, then because now as you guys do your next flips or your next houses, depending on the area that you're doing in, and if it's affordable, hey, this house is a smart house too.
Mhm.
Where somebody comes in and they can say, hey, lights on, and show your house with lights on, right? That might be the thing that gives you the edge versus your competition versus the renter pool coming up, right? As we mentioned, landlords giving or being able to negotiate. If my house is the best house that's available for rent, I'm not negotiating anything,
Yep.
right? So what add-ons can you do? How much does it cost you to make your house? Nowadays, I feel like it's very affordable to do the smart house. Now, of course, you want to make sure that you do it in the right market, that it makes sense in your market. You don't overdevelop your house. Um, but that gives you availability to pick better tenants. The better the house, usually the better tenants you can attract. So again, as investors, how can I use the technology that's being put before me to continue to have the edge, a cutting edge that is here? If I'm building, I'm flipping, multi-million, 40, 50 million, $5 million houses, maybe I put a Tesla robot in there. Hey, it comes with your own maid, right? I'll price that in there. But I guarantee somebody that walks in now gives me an advantage to sell that house, especially when you're looking at 5 million, $4 million houses. Go ahead. Wade put something in the chat. Let me read this. I find modern finishes are plainer and simpler, or is that just me? Yes, I am starting to see everything is kind of, and Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, but everything is starting to just blend, right? Like you very rarely see much of like, wow, like that is great. Like that's
Yeah.
next level.
Especially on the entry level, in the bread and butter for flippers investors around around the US is that entry level home and maybe the step above the entry level home.
Mhm.
And in those homes, repost gray and a white, kind of silvery countertop with, stainless steel appliances and stainless steel doorknobs and stainless steel. It's just all very, very clean cut and all the exact same. And honestly, like when I'm doing comps and stuff like that, going into the content a little bit, like when I'm looking at comps and stuff like that in the area, I can tell just by looking. I just look at pictures. I don't look at prices, days on market, or what the square footage was. I set my range and then I look at pictures. I try to
Mhm.
find 4 or 5 flipped houses. If I can find 4 or 5 flipped houses, I know what that my flipped house is going to sell for.
Yeah. And to be clear with you guys, we did this exercise earlier today, right? I got a property that I'm selling. I looked at the market, I analyzed the market like anybody would, and I looked at my competition. And my competition wasn't offering anything near pretty much what I was offering. So it becomes, all right, what is wrong with my house and what is above my house that would give you the other listing or the upper hand? So making sure that you understand the market is crucial to it as well. And again, what gives me the competitive advantage versus everybody else, right? Because as it says there, more home sales than in 2024. Yeah, there's going to be a lot more people selling. What's going to give you the difference, right? Do you
It
put,
wasn't.
go
Yeah.
ahead. Go
It wasn't
ahead.
even that long ago where when you thought about like houses offering like stainless steel, the appliances, that the appliance package was like a premium thing,
Yeah.
and now it's become like, hey, it's just a standard, right? And if you have black or
Actually,
white, it's like, oh my God, because there's all these niche companies that are making these built-ins and these cabinet covers, and you have your sub freezers and all the stuff being
I,
offered. It
I want to talk about that though, because at the end of the day, that is
I've
how
actually found,
capitalism
yeah,
works. That is true definition of capitalism is that things as time goes by, things will get cheaper. True
Okay.
capitalism means things should get cheaper.
Can I add too? Because I just bought like several appliances. Um, Stainless steel is actually cheaper than the white or black
Whoa.
appliances.
yep.
So yeah.
That's what I was going to say when I started looking at appliance packages
Yep.
recently. I actually found that white and black is actually more expensive than stainless steel now.
Wow.
Because they
And
have to
so
like Cerakote them, or like they have to put another layer of coating on them versus leaving it like this raw steel and just coating it that way. So
wow.
it's weird how they're doing it like a full circle when it comes to like now if you wanted a color, because you can customize any color
It's
for their appliances nowadays.
it's supply and demand
Yeah.
Yeah.
in its simplest form, right?
Mhm.
Everybody has demanded that they want stainless steel. Manufacturers have gone out to meet that demand and built up the supply, right? And so now there is no demand for the white and black, which made the supply down, which means now it's more valuable because there isn't as much out there.
So again, true capitalism, the prices will drive down no matter what industry you in. The price of the iPhone, except for monopolies, that's why they don't allow monopolies. The price of the iPhone, the price has been pretty stagnant, but prices usually are going down with more technology. Think about what a TV costs, guys. If you asked about a TV a decade ago, if you asked about a 80-inch TV at Best Buy, I remember seeing one for about 10 grand, right? You can get an 80-inch TV at Walmart nowadays, right? Best Buy had it on a display. It was the best, the
For
crispiest,
less than $1,000.
easily,
Yeah.
any given day. And they're always in stock. So capitalism in its essence will drive prices down, and that goes back to supply and demand. I think that is a very key point. Um, Home price growth will return to pre-pandemic levels. We'll just go back over this. I think so. I think we'll still see that small 2 to 3%. Now, how does that work with houses, more sales? I'm not sure, right? Do sellers start to come to realization, start giving, discounts? I've seen in my market locally, and I don't know about you guys in your market, I've seen a lot of price drops over the past 3 months. I've seen houses stay on the market for 60 days, 90 days. We looked at a house today. It was on the market for like 300 days or something like that. And it wasn't a bad house.
Yep.
it wasn't a pricing issue. And again, real estate is very local. Um, so I think it's important that we stress that. Let me see what else we got in the chat. I missed some stuff. But yeah, wait, great point on pointing that out. I do feel like things have gotten much simpler. The price of granite, I feel like, has gone down. I'm seeing big discounts on granite. And granite used to be a LVP, right? Even LVP, when you're working with it, here's a great tip. Find a flooring distributor or a flooring company that specializes in just flooring. I know you guys like to go to Lowe's. Sometimes you can get some good discounts at Lowe's, but try to work with a flooring company. I've been able to secure some pretty good numbers by buying from flooring companies directly, right? Because they're getting the stuff. It's all coming from China. I'll be honest with you. Most of it, all your LVP is coming from China. You can get it for, I got you can get a pallet for I think 90 cents a square foot delivered. And if you look at Lowe's, you're paying about $1.99 a square foot, so you save $1 on a square footage. If you're doing big enough volume, I highly suggest Clarissa for like a project like yours. And looking back, that would have been a high level. Hey, I need a pallet of this flooring. Or do you still need flooring? How much flooring do you need? Over 1,000 square feet?
Oh, well over 1,000 square feet.
I got a
Like
guy who has a
probably.
pallet.
Yeah, so the building is like 6,700 square feet, and I've only installed 1,000, and I think I have like 500 square feet left of the
I
stuff I've
got a
got.
guy who has a pallet with like 6 millimeter thickness, etc. And this is all from like working with flooring distributors specifically. He has like 6 millimeter thick flooring that should be a huge help for you. And I think he's gonna quote it for me at like 90 or $1.29 or something like that a square foot. So way cheaper than Lowe's and better quality. So try to work with your local flooring distributors. Try to work with other distributors, even cabinet distributors. Right? There are people who specifically just sell cabinets. You can get decent cabinets for the same price you pay at Lowe's in stock for certain cabinets. Now I would do it on a flip. I wouldn't get too crazy on my rentals because depending on what area you're in, it might not just be necessary.
Yeah, there's a big difference in doing something, I mean, if you're putting in cabinets and you go in stock versus finding something that has the slow close and soft close and things like that's a touch. I mean, when it comes down to flipping, you're talking about bathrooms and you're talking about kitchens. You're selling to the woman of the house, whoever that happens to be. Period. Clarissa will absolutely tell you that, right? So those touches like the soft close and things like that, if you're doing a flip and you want to maximize your ARV, and you're putting in new cabinets, that's money well spent for sure. And then it's just a matter of having the right person to show the house to know that that's there.
Yeah. And again, it goes to the locality of your market too. What is your market demand? Are they demanding and the price point, right? Are you selling an entry level home? If you're selling an entry level home, your cabinets need to match that according to whatever is in your area. If you're selling an upper high end home, you have to have the cabinets that are proportionate to the price point. There's a big difference between a $250,000 house to a 400,000 to $1 million house, right? And
Has
all
anybody, you mentioned granite. Have you installed granite lately? Has anybody installed
I
granite
just
lately?
I just did on my 2 bedroom. I've done it. I've done a couple. I did some on my 2 bedroom. I did some on my 4 bedroom. We did a countertop in the island. I did a countertop.
I just did a quartz
I
one for my office.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put granite in my townhouse. It was for me, that's my preference, but this house has quartz and I hate it.
Mm,
Just
mm.
curious if the prices has gone down. It used to be, I was getting it at $32, and that was measured and installed, measured
Dream
and
on.
what's that?
I said dream on. I don't know if you can get 32 right now.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. I
That
have a
was
guy.
that was before everything skyrocketed and stuff like
I
that.
have a guy for you if you want me to hook him up. I'll tell him it's for me, and he'll put it in for you. Um, but yeah, I think right now you're looking at if you go to like Lowe's, measured install, you're looking at like 50 a square.
Yeah.
So it's
And,
expensive.
and that's like the basic grade too. It's not even
Basic.
like, yeah, it's not even like the premium thickness and the finishing and the rounding, all that
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah, so by the time you really start putting in, you might be at 60, 65. yeah, I've done um and it again it depends on your finishings. Like I got an Airbnb that I'm launching. I don't know if you guys seen, I posted it like 2 days ago or yesterday. I got an Airbnb I'm launching and we did granite and that, but the price point was great. I think I paid about 700 or 800 for install and a slab. And for Micah would have been about $200, $300. So I spent an extra 400 or 500, got a better finish. That's the easy trade-off for me. But when you start talking about spending a couple grand, that's when it's a big thing to consider. So again, make sure it's particular to your area, then you understand that.
Yep.
Um, this has been a great conversation. I know we had content and stuff, but I love having these conversations with y'all because it's just like what's going on current. This is what we do in our inner circle too. So it's pretty awesome, guys.
It leads into because next week we're going to dive into goals and goal setting and thinking about 2025 and stuff like that. So we got a few minutes left. It's good being an open conversation and stuff like this. You guys kind of share, like, what are you guys projecting? Are you seeing stuff like what Ray and I are seeing, like as far as what 2025 and beyond is going to bring, or do you have any other things that we haven't touched on and stuff like that? I'd love to hear what other people think.
I've been hearing a lot of things as far as like land investing, like from Land Geek and stuff like that. Like that's being more prominent. A lot more investors are coming out and talking about, parceling land and doing that element. I find it interesting, but again, that's way forward thinking, and that's hoping for development. Opportunities.
Yeah. Land is a very unique niche, right? Like if you're going to invest in land, you have to be a sniper.
Yeah.
Like because apparently there's different topographies. You got swamp areas, you got areas that are known and prone to flood. And if you're not local to the market, you have no idea. Um, you got to know the developers, right? And be able to dispo it to the developers as well. So that is if somebody here learns it, please teach me because I'm just curious to know about it. Just out of, I'm never going to invest in land. I'll invest in an asset, but the land itself, I'm curious to learn about.
The land is an asset.
Ton of
It's,
factors with land.
huh?
There's a ton of factors with land. I'm from
Tons.
Canada. It's probably a little bit different, but depending on like what the land is and how it's graded and if it's
Mhm.
got the hookups or doesn't have the hookups
Yep.
and
Utilities.
like
Yeah.
and in Canada, like I was working for a developer and they were working on a project and they forgot to get the hydro hookups and it delayed their 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 stuff by like 6 to 8 months and they had to cut costs and whatnot. But here, like you can buy a piece of land and you could be sitting on it for 5 plus years before you go through all the hoops of getting all the permits and making sure you cross your I's and dot your T's and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a definitely a long-term gain. It has the potential to be huge, but you also have to you lose a lot of uh, your area to if you need like a park in there and the government wants you to do this, to do that. Now you have to completely change like your GFA and all your stuff to accommodate for different things that the government is looking to get to make sure that they have what they need for that new community.
Yeah, and that actually gets more into the developmental side, more than
Yeah.
just the land as the asset and investing in it. Zach, thanks for sharing again. Because it is, I mean, similar here in the States. But when you talk about development, that's a whole different ballgame. So you have just land, then you have the development, then you have the investor side. Like there are people who just do development. They crush it, right?
Yeah.
You never hear the stories about like, hey, I developed this property and I lost 100 grand or 200,000. You very rarely hear those stories. And there are a lot of them because you have those holding costs. You have the city, you have zoning, you have permits, you have um, land acquisition costs. There's tons that can happen. You have your hookup costs, bringing in utilities, as you mentioned. Ashley put another one, mineral rights, very important. Also I know in certain states they have air rights, right?
Yep.
So you can purchase the air rights. But if you don't have the access to the air rights, you can't build up. So for some developers, when you go to sell it and they see you don't have the air rights, it's not worth it then. You can build 3 units high, but they might want 5 units to break even. Might need to build 15 units. No air rights, no deal. So
Environmental factors too, huge.
yep. Yeah. I saw Wade put environmental report kill deals 100%.
Oh yeah, big time.
I've done some builds with I don't know what the terminology is, but they had like toxic soil and EPA.
Hydrocarbons or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't rated for EPA just based on what they did in it. And anybody that's getting into commercial investing, please know that a dry cleaner, once you have a dry cleaning business on your land, it is considered like toxic after that point. Um,
Environment. Yeah,
yeah,
EPA.
yeah. So there's some abatement or some of some sort that needs to be done to get it back up to standard. So just know that as well. It's something I learned. Um,
Yeah, zoning is city planning, right? It's land is ultra local,
mhm.
right? And you wouldn't necessarily think it to be that way if you're buying in Virginia, you're buying in Virginia, right? That's not the case. It's probably the same case there in Canada as well. Um, what you can and can't do in a specific area is very specific to who is in office at that time
Mhm.
in the city council and on the planning commission.
Yeah, and again, go back to connections. You have to know people. Like it really becomes like, yo, whose arm can I pull? Who can I go to directly and ask for, hey, can I get this done? Right? Is the city cool? Is code enforcement cool? Are developers cool? Who can I work with to make sure I push this thing through? So I think those are all very important points. But before we run out of time, anybody else want to share what you guys have seen in your market, things that you think are up and coming before we wrap up? Um, okay, okay. Seth, if you want to end us off with a quote, we had a bunch of content for y'all today. We really did work hard today too.
Yeah,
We'll save it for a different day, Seth, I guess. Um, if
absolutely.
you guys
It's
aren't, go ahead.
time tested content. Absolutely. Be
Yeah,
valuable. It'll be valuable in 2025
yeah,
too.
it'll work for the next decade unless AI takes us over too. We'll
Yeah,
we'll,
right.
we'll come through with an AI generated video of us. If you guys aren't part of the winner circle, make sure you click the link. We do stuff like this and more every Wednesday. Next Tuesday will be our goal setting principles for 2025. Will be our end of year wrap up. After that, me and Seth are going to take some well needed family time. We're going to enjoy our Tuesdays for once and make sure that we spend it with family. I'm sure my wife will appreciate it and the kids will too. And hopefully your kids and family enjoy it as well. Christmas and New Year's. I think New Year's falls on a Tuesday too.
Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve are the
Yeah,
next
so
two Tuesdays after that.
yeah, so we'll be taking the next 2 weeks off.
Yeah. Awesome. You don't have to be smarter than the rest, guys. You just have to be more disciplined than the rest. Good old Warren Buffett. He's always good for a good quote.
Yeah. They went with the content, but I guess now you just get the quote now. You'll have to save it for next week. Yeah, next week we'll go into it. All right, everybody. If you have anything, we'll see our inner circle
General
members tomorrow.
consensus is stick to the basics, guys. Right?
Yep. Yeah.
Stay disciplined. Stick to the basics.
Yep. We'll see everybody inner circle tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And everybody else, we'll see you all next week. Thank you guys. Great conversation. Great conversation today, too. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. See you
Awesome.
tomorrow. Appreciate the
Sounds
invite,
good.
Ray.
Yep. Anytime.